The organisation was founded to actually break down barriers and open up access to the profession. And that always has driven me, and I think drives most of the people who work for ACCA.
The higher purpose I have is I really enjoy solving problems and finding solutions, policy solutions in the public interest that make the system better, that protect not only investors but wider stakeholders.
Over the years, it's been the more important thing in my day to day is really just helping others in their careers and inspiring them. Now that you can get to that level,
it's all about creating trust, confidence, helping businesses grow. That helps create jobs. It helps people with the skills that they can reinvent themselves, and that's been very motivating over the years.
In terms of what gets me up in the morning is variety. Each day you start the day and you go, you're not quite sure what the day is going to bring. We've been on quite a journey with data analytics. Probably about 10 years ago, the firm decided to invest heavily. So there's huge benefits to the client. We reduce the burden of our time with them because we're able to actually analyze the information directly using our tools. We can bring a lot of insights to them and a different viewpoint on their financial reporting process. That's been one of the barriers to adoption, is people concerned about, are you telling me to do this over and above what I would normally do? So our focus has been very much on not doing that. We want to replace work. We want to replace audit procedures with these new procedures, and therefore, bring higher quality.
It's a good question. I was reflecting on that, and actually what Alan was saying is very similar to the experience that our firms are going through as well, almost regardless of size as well. And that's been one of the big changes over the last few years, that there is fantastic technology which is accessible and available to companies and firms of any size, so they can be using AI on a very small audit, for example. RPA is increasingly being used even in small environments as well. Because what you see happening as well is you have much more niche practices developing. So we have some firms who are way ahead on areas like cybersecurity, for example. So some of the other firms will say, well, it's not worth us trying to develop that ourselves because we're specialized in a different area. But can we collaborate together and offer that to their clients?
This journey requires investment and it requires willpower, because there's so many roadblocks along the way when it comes to digital. I know it's the buzzword right now, but behind that word is so much work and so much investment of time and learning and real dollars into tools. I think the other thing that's been interesting is the way one of my observations would be the way we communicate with audit committees. I spent a lot of time with data visualization and providing audit committees with the typical AC package, but in a very different way, which I think over the past few years has really changed the conversation at an audit committee meeting. And you speak about going into a meeting with an agenda, thinking it's going to go one direction. And I've been to a ton of audit committee meetings where they're so structured, and you've introduced data analytics and showed them a live demonstration, and it took over 45 minutes of the meeting.
I think that's these tools are fantastic, and Daniela mentioned the immediate adoption of Microsoft Teams. It really did happen, and that of course was in our plan. And I love how plans that would have taken 3 years have happened in 3 weeks. It's like, hallelujah! Please, can we have more of this? And we have been investing many millions, which for a professional body is high, in services, whether that be directly to members or very importantly in the education platforms. So digital examinations, digital learning, all of that has had to accelerate. Going down the rabbit hole of a single technology is probably not the way to go for a professional accountant, because it can be obsolete very quickly. It's not necessarily that's going to be needed in all the situations you encounter. So, looking at the surrounding, the processes, the modes of delivery, all the factors that need to be taken into account, but knowing how you will apply the digital technologies and who are the experts, where that expertise really lies and can be pulled in, I think is is important. We've found in our work that we call them professional quotients for success at ACCA, and digital is very much there. But if you don't surround that with creativity, with an understanding of, well, certainly the ethical and technical compass right at the heart of the professional, then you will apply those technologies in the wrong ways. So developing what we might call the more rounded human skills that enable you to use that technology effectively, particularly I'd say moving into leadership roles, is going to be very important too.
I don't think it's just a question of putting more time, and I would echo what Helen was saying as well about that there is a learning mindset, and that's relevant for everyone. So in a smaller practice, you know, the partners who are running those practices tend not to be maybe the youngest people in the firm, and for many of them, they have probably been holding back on technology and trying to get their heads around things.
The way in my two teams that I run, we bring people in on a secondment basis. So they come into us, they usually sign up for a couple of years, and then they go back into the practice. And the number of times that they get into this, you know, especially in the data analytics area, really exciting, it's innovative, it's very different to what they've been doing in their audit role. And they say, I want to stay. I want to make a career of this. And I spend so much time advising them, no, you need to go back, you know, because you've learned some new skills, but those new skills are perhaps going to become old in a few years' time. You're going to get stuck. You need to go back. And I've had a number of people who have contacted me afterwards and said, Alan, I'm so glad you sent me back to the practice, because they realize that actually what they've learned with us, they go out, they can apply it, and they grow and they expand.
We definitely need a merging of both skill sets. I do think it's impossible to be, someone who codes in 6 languages and the best auditor ever. It's very rare to find that individual. So you do need talent, like STEM talent, to support the teams. And you also need individuals in the profession who understand the environment so that they can work together. So I think the collaboration is very important.
We talk about programming. These days, it's rare that you get into what we would probably historically have seen as programming, typing lots of keywords with hashes and all sorts of things like that. You know, programming today, a lot of software that we have, it's intuitive.
The way you do it is by providing opportunities for people to gain experience in lots of different areas, which requires a business which has lots of different service lines within it, and that's how firms like ours have managed to be successful.
It's the people who are really getting their heads around digital are the firms which are developing the complete talent of their individuals. And you can't just do the digital part of that. So I was talking to a partner yesterday who had never used video conferencing 3 months ago. And now he's actually looking at, he's on video conferences all the time, but he's also looking at dashboards about his firm. He's looking at realization rates. He's talking to his team, and he started to learn from some of his new hires that are coming in who had this capability.
We will be moving to different ways of working. And again, it will be about what's your purpose and how are you best going to achieve it. And you now have a whole new kit bag of putting that in place and taking your people with you.
And I think one of the big challenges we've got is how we bring the young people into the workforce. And I think COVID has really sort of highlighted the challenge that we've got with that. We're used to working. We've got our work structures. We've moved those structures online into a virtual room. When you don't have that work structure, you've come out of university, you haven't had that opportunity yet to build up that experience, it's really tough.
It's hard because there's always a human element to what we do. And our junior people, not only the ones that kind of started with us in September, but we, for the first time, have had interns who started with us in June who are doing the first ever virtual internship. And it's interesting because one of the big things when you're at the firm is networking. And so we have moved from the concept of networking to the concept of connecting, which is slightly different because networking almost has that feel of human face-to-face, but connecting in the millennial world is a lot different, and they're a lot better at it.
I do come back to this point that many of you have talked about, which is that it still remains an inherent need to come together physically. And that will continue, and offices will be more like hubs, clubs, places to go to do something. And I can kind of see that status message that we used to have in Skype or Teams, WFH, will now become WFO, probably, working from office as an exception rather than the rule.